You ever have that feeling like you're just pushing against an invisible wall? No matter what you do, something you just can't see seems to be holding you back. Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're going to break down a framework from spiritualfaiths.com that looks right at that feeling, this idea of spiritual barriers, and maybe how to overcome them with prayer.
Wow, a backpack full of bricks that no one else could see. That line comes straight from the author of the article we're looking at, Emma Whitmore, and she's using that incredible image to talk about years of her own struggles, where everything from friendships to jobs, even her health just seemed to fall apart for no good reason. It's that feeling of carrying an invisible weight. And that's really the heart of the problem this whole framework is trying to solve.
So, yeah, that really brings us to the core question the article poses. It's basically asking, what if some of our biggest hurdles aren't the ones we can see? What if they're invisible? This one question really sets the stage for everything else we're about to get into.
All right, so before we can even talk about a solution, we've got to understand the problem, right? At least how the source defines it. So this first part is all about these so-called invisible chains.
Okay, so here's the key term they use: spiritual blockages. Now, the framework is really clear. We're not talking about physical roadblocks here. These are described as unseen forces that get in the way of what it calls the natural flow of grace. The basic idea is that good things, or blessings, are always out there. But these blockages are like dams, stopping them from actually getting to us. And the source breaks these blockages down into three main types. First up, you've got generational patterns. This is the idea of negative cycles, maybe even sins, that are passed down through a family line. Second, spoken words. This refers to the power of negative things said out loud, whether by other people or even by ourselves. And finally, number three, self-inflicted limitations. These are basically the walls we build ourselves with our own doubt and disbelief. Okay, so if those are the invisible chains, how do you break them? Well, the framework offers a very specific tool for the job. Let's get into the proposed solution. So the central argument here is that prayer isn't supposed to be a passive thing. The article actually calls it a powerful weapon. The whole idea is that through really intentional, faith-filled prayer, you can actively go up against and break down these spiritual blockages, and in doing so, unlock blessings. But, it's not just about muttering a few words. According to the source, for prayer to really work like this, it has to be rooted in genuine faith. The framework really stresses that this kind of prayer needs a few things. You've got to take personal responsibility, you have to forgive people, and you need to connect it directly to promises found in Scripture. It's painted as this really personal, really powerful act. So that's the theory, but what does this actually look like in real life? The source gives some pretty specific prayers for common struggles, and we're going to walk through two of them right now. First up, we have an example that targets one of those blockages we just talked about, what the article calls generational patterns, or curses that get passed down through a family. You can really see the intention in this line from the prayer. It's a direct appeal, right? It acknowledges the past, it asks for forgiveness for what ancestors might have done, and then it makes this bold declaration to break every chain. The key thing here is that it's an active step. You're trying to consciously sever that connection. And this is where you can see how the whole framework uses Scripture to back everything up. See, the prayer doesn't just stand on its own, it's tied directly to a specific Bible verse. This verse from Galatians is brought in to reinforce the idea that freedom from these kinds of curses is possible because of what Jesus did. Okay, let's look at the second example. This one tackles a really common struggle, money problems, or what's framed here as the curse of poverty. And again, pay attention to the language. It's really active, isn't it? You've got these strong words like renounce and declare. The idea is to reject a state of lack and then actively claim a state of provision. It's all about shifting your whole mindset away from scarcity and toward a trust in abundance. And you guessed it, just like the last one, this prayer is also linked to a specific promise from the Bible. The source pulls in this verse from Philippians as the foundation for believing that God will provide. So in this framework, the prayer isn't just a hopeful wish. It's seen as claiming a promise that's already been made. Okay, so beyond just giving examples, the source material actually lays out a practical how-to guide. It gives you a method for turning this into something you can do regularly. So, according to the source, here are 5 steps for effective prayer. First, define your focus. You have to name the specific thing you're struggling with.
Second, make it personal. Speak from the heart. Be honest. Third, explore approaches. Find what works for you. Maybe it's praying silently, writing it down, or even praying with other people. Number 4 is a big one. Emphasize forgiveness. This means letting go of resentment, not just towards others, but yourself too. And finally, number 5, pray regularly. It's got to be a consistent practice.
So after all this, what's the end goal? What's the intended outcome of using this prayer framework? Well, this last section is all about the transformation it's supposed to create.
This really lays out the 2 different paths described in the article. On one side, you have a life with these curses. It's marked by fear, struggle, and being trapped by the past. And on the other side, a life with blessings, which looks like faith, hope, restoration, and real freedom. The entire point of these prayers is to help you move from that left column over to the right.
And this really brings it all back to the beginning, doesn't it? Remember that author who felt like she was carrying a backpack full of bricks, feeling like a victim of fate? Well, the ultimate message here is about changing that narrative. It's about using faith and prayer as tools to move from being a passive victim to living an active life of freedom.
When you boil it all down, this entire framework is built on a really powerful idea about the connection between what's going on inside us and what we experience on the outside. And it kind of leaves us with a bigger question to chew on, no matter what your personal beliefs are. Just how much power do our beliefs, our words, and our focus actually have over the reality we live every single day?